Just wanted to let you know you could find us at the Conscious Awakening Network on Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV, as well as other streaming um,
platforms.
I was getting there. On Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, many different places. So tonight we have a great, phenomenal Chandler, psychic medium.
Oh, you're gonna make me blush.
Professional hypnotist.
Wait a minute, I'm not a professional hypnotist.
No, you're not. Thank you. Well, that works with MUFON. Mary Bassett, how are you?
Good. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Doing fantastic. So how are you doing today?
Doing good. Keeping busy. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a channeler and psychic medium. I've been doing that for over 13 years now professionally. And just recently in the last year, I started working with MUFON, being a regressionist for experiencers, as well as PTSD experiencers, paranormal experiencers. I also work with the past life regressions for people who have patterns that, they just can't get past. And I also work with like the deep cellular healing with the regressions. So we tap into the high and we get the energy and actually take care of issues that people just can't get past. I work full time, do events on nonstop. We have a new show out with my friend Deb DeRoos, RJ DeRoos, Bill Konkoleski, who is the president of MUFON, as well as Michael Carter, who's from Aliens, and we do the Voice of Contact, where I actually take my regressions and use the regressions from permission, and the expert panel goes over the regressions and the experiencers. It's really actually, it's super cool. It's not just to listen to, but experiencers actually get real feedback on what they experienced.
Right. That must be very, very interesting. Just want to tell everyone, we are all going through ice storms, so the internet may be a little wonky, just in case anybody's hearing this or watching this. And
if the internet isn't wonky, I'll try to make up for the wonky.
And in case you hear part of it, it will come up. Just be patient.
I'm giving myself a new nickname, the Jabberwonky.
Okay. So, about your regressions, that must be really interesting. Finding out exactly what people really experience, because a lot of the times we hide it from ourselves because we're not sure how our own psychic is going to deal with it. So do they come to you because they think that they had it but they're not sure, or do they come to you to find out for sure or confirm?
I think a little bit of everything. Sometimes it's just a dream that they had, or it's a reoccurring dream and they want to explore that dream, because quite often when we have an experience, sometimes it feels like a dream, or it seems like a dream. And I've had people who have been regressed several times who just keep exploring the experiences. Weeks ago, I regressed a woman when I think she was right around 7 years old, where she had seen a crap, but that's all she remembered. And when we regressed her, she was fascinated because there was a door, and she kept on saying, "I never knew there was a door." So our subconscious will block memories until we're ready to actually explore them. And it's kind of the same with regressions too, is you're only going to be allowed so much until you're ready for it. So it's just like a little bit of everything. Sometimes people have missing time and they don't understand why. And they start having glitches of memory of little flat things that they have no idea where it's coming from. Regression's a really great way to dig deep into that to get the real answers. because there's always more. It's your experience, and then you tap into the oversoul and the higher self, and that's where you tap into the real answers, because you kind of get yourself out of your own way and tap into that higher self.
Right, right. It is a wonderful experience when you actually, because I do them myself, but I see people light up because they're like, I finally got the full answer. So I understand. I just was wondering, how they come to you, because to me they just come because they have parts of their memory kind of erased. Like they all of a sudden remember driving to work, but then all of a sudden a blank, and it's like 2 days later, and they're trying to make sure that they're not having problems, and that so it must be very interesting. Now, when you do that, do they give you full details, or how do you get the full?
It's more of a conversation. I'd rather not have the full details, because that helps me better to ask questions as we're going along. Because my job really is just the facilitator. I'm there just to ask the questions to get the information. So they'll give me a little bit of background. And typically I do have like a questionnaire for them to fill out, information of what the regression is itself, what it means to regress, what it means to have an experience with ET, if that's what they're coming for. Then we go over what they fill out. And then we talk about any kind of experiences that they want to explore, and they give me a tiny bit of background, but the less conversation for me that we can have actually about that experience, the less chance there is a patient that could put an idea in their head and they just say it during regression, because that is a possibility. That does happen, where they just repeat something where it came from that conversation. So I like to the least amount of possible about the experience, just because we want the whole story and make sure that nothing was kind of implied during the conversation. Usually everything that needs to come out will come out, and then they'll come back within a month to continue regressions, because you always get more of the stories, and if you've had one experience, you've had another, and so it just kind of gets the ball rolling and keeps going. Yes.
I find it's helpful when I work, and not in regressions, but just in the general work I do, is to encourage them to ask their questions. And then if they run out of questions, I'll kind of intuit the curious question that will kind of help trigger their questions further. Because that to me tells me they're ready to hear the answers.
That's a good point. It really is. Yeah. Because regression work can be really intimidating. A lot of people will come anxious, and I'll usually spend about at least an hour with the interview, at least, mostly just to get them relaxed, because they're not going to be able to be regressed if they're not relaxed. But if you've never done it, it does cause anxiety at first, because you're thinking you're giving up control doing it. But it's not that at all. It's you kind of get out of your own way, but you have full control. I've literally had people just sit up and go, I've got to go to the bathroom. And then they go to the bathroom real quick and lay back down and are back in instantly. So it doesn't take much at all. You can control anything. It's just putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to connect with somebody at a vulnerable level. Or feeling like you're vulnerable when you're really not in the long run.
Right. Yes, I have had people even say, "Oh, you're going to make me tell all my secrets." I'm like, "No, you're going to say whatever you want to say." Like, not going in there and digging what secrets you have that nobody wants, you don't want anybody to know. I'm just here to help you remember, basically.
Or you always get like the ones who are afraid you're gonna make them bark like a like no. I'm like, I can if you want me to, but I don't see where it's
I usually give my Doberman growl and say, if you can do better than that, go ahead, but that's not really a contest. So, you know, I'm silly, and that generally kind of relaxes them. And my training is to get out of their way and, you know, forward their agenda. As long as they're not going to hurt themselves or anyone else, it's whatever they want, you know, because that's what they're here for. They're here to move forward, and I'm here to facilitate that.
Right. Now, the psychic medium and channeler and all that, how did you finally decide, or what made you finally decide to do that professionally?
Well, I've always been drawn to it. As a little girl, I had the gifts. I just really didn't understand them. I didn't understand why I would hear spirit talking to me, or why I had, you know, Native American spirit guides, or I would chase butterflies that weren't there. I really, well, I am weird, but I always just thought I was an odd child because I never fit in with my family ever. And probably about 16, I got my first tarot deck. My mom took me to a psychic fair, and she offered me a psychic reading. And I'm like, oh, hell no. Because I did not want my mom to know all the stuff that I was up to at the age of 16 that I shouldn't have been doing. And I was like super afraid that the psychic would tell her. So didn't get a reading. But I discovered, like, reading with those cards, there was something there. And I could read for other people. And it was spot on, even though I didn't like totally recognize what I was doing or how I was doing it or why. Early 30s, you know, I got in my 20s, because you kind of walk away from it sometimes. You know, you kind of, I don't know, afraid of what people might say, what they think. I'm already weird, you know, odd person out. Early 30s, my grandmother passed away, and that really got me into spirituality. And I started getting readings, and they kept on saying, you have a really great gift. It's going to be up to you if you decide to use it in this lifetime, but you had the capability. I had no idea what they're talking about. And you know how it is. You have a gift, and you go and nobody's going to tell you what your gift is, because you got to figure it out yourself. Such a journey. But I started doing the tarot card readings again and slowly started building it up. The channeling came a little bit later, that discovery, where I would start to meditate before my readings and realize I got a lot more information doing that. And then it just completely turned in to that direct connect with spirit versus reading with the cards. I'll still read with my cards, but I don't need to. I get better information with that direct connect. So it's one of those things where it slowly developed over time. And yeah, as soon as I picked it back up in my early 30s, there was no stopping me. It was just a slowly developing little stages, you know, right. Doing this much here. And then after that develops, you do a little bit more until it turned out to such a strong passion that I can't not do it. I have my regular job. My regular job is to enable me to provide the service and help people without having to charge them, because it's not my main income. But the passion for it is so strong, to connect with people and to help and to make a difference, to serve the universe, to serve the collective whole, to raise the vibration. Like there's nothing that could keep me from it. I always joke with my husband that, like, he always says, you're not going to leave me for another man. I'm like, the only way I would leave you is if you try to get me to step away from my spirituality, because then we'd probably have issues, because there's nothing that can keep me from it. The connection's so strong to it.
Right.
I know that was long-winded. I'm sorry, but that's I get going on it. I think
there's a lot to roll. There's a lot to roll out, you know, and it's nice that you're being so diligent about giving a complete answer instead of the one-word answers that I usually have to give. But I love the word you use, because I've been down in a gas station in South Carolina, and some stranger will walk up to me and say, do you know Jesus? and say, well, as a matter of fact, we have direct connect. Why? Do you need something? And that'll usually solve that issue, because I use the same phrase, direct connect, because literally that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear you there, and that's wonderful. MUFON, that's incredible to me, because there's something about MUFON that, in my mind, requires a tremendous amount of courage. There's so much counterculture to it right now, and it's become polarized, because the more you push for disclosure, the more people are going to push back. And I think it's really wonderful that you're out there visibly working with MUFON and helping people to understand what the heck happened. But how did that happen for you?
Well, to be honest, I guess just kind of fate. It just kind of happened. I started doing my regression.
Mary, are you still there? Yep, we lost her. Okay. She should be a minute, folks. Let's see.
I must have asked a really good question, because somebody doesn't want to answer that.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. She'll be back. She was speaking about how she ended up working with MUFON, and hopefully we'll have her back in a second. It's like we said, everyone is going through some ice storm at this moment. She's going through it, and we're sort of at the end tail of it, hopefully. So please just be patient. And let's see. Okay, she's there. Wait. Think we might have her back here.
Yay!
There she is. How you doing? Oh, she may be frozen again. How you doing?
Good. You guys disappeared.
Yeah.
No, we were here. I've got a timer. There's no lapse in time for us. I don't know where you were.
Missing time. I love it. But no, Bill Konkoleski from MUFON just approached me and asked me if I would be willing to work with ET experiencers, and it just kind of took off from there. I regressed him first because he's very hands-on, so he wanted to make sure that I would be actually doing regressions appropriately before he referred anybody to me. And so little by little, and that's like mainly my work with MUFON itself, is they just refer the experiencers to me and I work with them. And it really took off for me because I was lucky enough that Bill agreed to do a live regression with me at the last UFO contact in September. So that really got my name out there. And so it really opened me up to having more people come to me for those kind of regressions. And looking forward to it in a couple of weeks. I'll be at the first Michigan MUFON meeting that they've had in a really long time, and I'll be doing live regressions there with someone.
Nice.
So, I think Bill is going to be our guest next week, correct?
Next week, yes.
And for those people that don't know, Bill is the regional director.
Yes.
Yep, of Michigan MUFON. Yes, and
right.
He's, I think, 2004. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So a very
Yes.
long time, very dedicated to
Right.
the work that he does.
And like you said, it's a passion, because a lot of trauma comes from not understanding and repressing the experiences of being on board a craft and what happens on board a craft, and to be able to have someone help you understand that, and that no, you're not crazy, and it's nothing that you should be ashamed of, and I that to me is God's work. So
Yeah.
nothing but respect for both of you.
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
But often, what I have found too is we live in a fear-based society.
Mm.
And we're conditioned to think that way. So when you have an experience that you don't understand, it's automatic fear. And when you go into that regression, quite often, it has nothing to do with what you thought it was.
Mhm.
Quite often, when we are actually taken, they're doing healing work.
Mhm.
They might be taking samples, but they're also doing healing work. And quite often, you're not even taking this, just contact, because there is a difference between having contact with ET and actually being taken.
Mhm.
It's two different things. And having a regression and figuring out what that experience is so beneficial to your health in so many different ways.
Correct. Correct.
And what people don't realize is, on this subject of contact, is there are hybrids running around don't even know they're hybrids. So almost everyone has had contact. They just may not be aware of it. So the more it can be presented in a way where, okay, if you're not ready to accept it, stand there, there'll be another bus right along, maybe you'll get on that one.
Mhm.
But you know this is a universal occurrence.
Mhm.
It's not even national, it's not even global. It's they're not from here. But then again, neither are most of us. So what the
That's
heck?
true.
Right. So, yes, and they always, movies and all that always picture contact or any dealings with galactic beings as negative, and my experiences, I'm very blessed. All my experiences have been very positive. They've always been for healing, whether it be for healing for me or to hold someone's hand so they're not nervous about it as they're getting their healing. So it's very different when you tell people that, and then you have a lot of people that have experienced not such a nice uh, experience, for lack of wording, but they will realize that not every single time they have had contact was as fearful as they thought it was, which is what is great about what you're doing, because you are healing people.
And that's what I want to do. Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's really even if the event was traumatic, having an understanding of it
Hmm.
makes all the difference in the world. It really does.
Right. Right.
And you can't have a fear-based society without guilt. So a lot of times there's this a form with the ignorance of what happened of residual guilt.
Hmm.
And all I care about is I want to try and rep humanity.
Mm.
So far I guess I'm doing okay, but they have their options.
Oh dear Lord. Oh dear Lord. So in your bio and different places, you're known as Mama Mary. Tell us about that.
Oh, for the love of Pete. A couple of years ago, I think starting in 2019, my stepdaughter, my husband, just to put it in perspective, he's quite a bit older than I am. So she's around my age. And she wanted me to start doing a podcast with her, Paranormal XL. And so her name is G. She called me Mama Mary. And it caught on like everywhere I went. I even tried to change it. I tried to change it to like Soul Diva. So it's something like super cool. And I could just I could sound like I was just like a bad person because it was like Soul Diva. No, Mama Mary stuck. So I was like, you know what? I get it. I'm just going to use it. I give into it. So everywhere I go, everybody they know me as Mama Mary. They love the name. I don't know if I do, but it is what it is. Right? That you got to go with the signs. I mean, what you're shown.
Exactly.
So.
And it's interesting. I've also read your bio, the one that was provided to me, and I have a question. You said you studied with the infamous Yvonne Smith.
Yes.
And that's how I read it in the bio. What makes her infamous?
Well, she has actually worked with MUFON as a regressionist for over 35 years. And so a lot of, I don't know if she's been, maybe she's been on Ancient Aliens being interviewed, but other shows on the History Channel, I've seen her in there as, an expert. But she'd been doing it for so long that to be having MUFON, offer to pay for my class to go study with her, that was a great opportunity because she taught me a lot. And because my original regression work was more for like past life, and you could still, work with ET experiencers, but you had to change it to work with somebody who did specifically that. And her regression was specifically for that. It's like, it taught me a lot of different ways to do it. So I merged how I was doing it with the material she gave me and created my own way of doing it, which is how you should do it anyway. But I think it has a deeper impact. But she's well known in the UFO world, the MUFON world, when it comes to regressions.
So she's only really infamous to those who oppose disclosure. She hasn't done any time or nothing
not
that would
as far as I know.
make her live in
She
infamy. Because I saw that word.
She's very talented.
That's wonderful.
Good.
But that's why I wanted to clear that up, because I was trying to understand where the title came from. And the people that are against disclosure, anyone who's counterculture, their oppression would be considered infamous by them. So
very true. Yes. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. I try to cover the one on my head because that was done in Saturday Night Live, but yeah. I'm known for my points. Later, I'll be known for my lumps.
So, how long did you study with her, by the way?
That was a course. I do believe it was like a 3-day course of like 8 hours type thing. We were going to go out to California to take it in person. It ended up having to be online. I think it was just easier for the times. But yeah, it was, I do believe it was 3 days, and it was like the 8 hours. And a lot of it was just the talking, her giving instruction, but then she would show us how she did her regressions with people. So people volunteered while we watched the regressions. That was perfect. It was really able to see her technique, how she spoke, because sometimes it's all about the tone of your voice too. There's a lot more to it than just reading words or saying words, or flicking somebody on the head and say sleep, because that doesn't always work either.
And a lot of it is about having them overcome their anxiety and giving them the ability to focus on something about you so that they can stop thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my experience in the work I do. So
Mm-hmm. So now, how do I'm going to ask now, but how do people contact you if
Well,
they
you can go
want?
to my Facebook page. Just look up Mary Bassett. It's public, so it's very
Mhm.
easy to find. And if you would be interested in doing a regression or a reading, you can contact my email, which is millergrls@hotmail.com. And then you can also find me on the Voices of Contact Facebook page and message me there.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. So there's many places, and Facebook. I mean, come on, people.
I know. I found that is like the one place that everybody can reach everybody in some shape or form.
Right.
Even strange people you don't want to reach you.
so looking forward,
Mm.
where do you want to take this?
Well, currently I'm working on a book.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Well, it was like a weird thing. Glenda knows this. Sometimes you just have those weird downloads, right? And it was the middle of the night and I had a download. I had this weird dream and I don't even know where I was. And when I woke up, I was like, what was that all about? And I heard a male voice say, wait till Friday and you'll find out. And so Friday comes along and like halfway through, it's probably like Thursday night, Friday morning, I started receiving this download, heavy, intense in the right side of my head. And all of a sudden I was in a vision and I was standing in front of my house. I could see this craft flying over my neighbor's house and it was huge. Which struck me funny, it was very quiet. I had no lights and it was square. And then I saw it land. And then up to me walks a being, a gray, probably about 4 feet tall. And I'm super excited because I'm like, did you come to take me? I just can't wait. We were going to have, I was ready to talk. We were going to have such good conversations. And he just shook his head at me and he touched my head where I was getting the downloads and I had such a strong vibration. He said, no, now it's time for you to remember why you came here and we're going to talk about you. Then all of a sudden I came out of it. And then I started getting all this information and downloads and the books I'm supposed to write and the creative side, the initial seeds of starting a podcast for regression work. So
Right.
that's the start of it, is doing a podcast that gets the story out to people. So people who have had their own experiences can say, you know what, I've experienced that. And that's what that is. So even if they don't come to me for a regression, they go to somebody to figure it out. Same with my book, is when that finally comes out, people read it and it triggers something and they go get the help they need, because 2023 is going to be a really big year, especially when it comes to ET and ET experiencers. There's going to be huge things happening that people aren't prepared for, and it's going to be a huge awakening. So my goal moving forward is to get enough information that it's just enough interest so that people aren't as scared and they embrace everything that's coming without fear. It's all about raising that vibration, that higher vibration. Because I think like the first time, and here I go rambling, the first time I had an ET experience that I actually remember, it was right before COVID hit. And I all of a sudden pulled into a vision and I was on a craft and I could see everything was white. I could see black windows and chairs lined the wall. And there is a female gray in a chair. And I walked up to her and she had a walking stick, but it was broke. It bothered me. And she hit it on the ground and she said, I'll take this one. So I started pulling out of the vision and I was like, but wait a minute, it's broken. Why would you want something that's broken? She was not everything that looks broken is. You'll just have to wait and see. And then she started giving me the download. 2023 is going to be a big year. We're going to have experiences where it looks like it's ET. It might look like an invasion. The balloons, right? That just got shot down. How many times did they say that on the news? So that's just the start of it. They're going to wake us up to that possibility, so we accept it. But they gave a timeline. 2027 is going to be another big year. 2029. We need to wake up. We need to start living in more love and light and less fear. So long story short, that's my main goal, is to put out this information in an open forum, and not be, because I don't care if people think I'm crazy or not. I probably am a little bit, but everybody is, and at least I own it. But to spark that idea where other people might say, that happened to me and now I understand it. Because I think the more people have an understanding and less fear, the better off we're going to be as a collective whole, as communities, as the whole world, not just the United States, but the whole world. Because let's face it, we're in trouble. And we need to start doing things differently.
Yeah, my downloads only come as lyrics and music and facilitating healing. But however you get them, I mean, people get downloads, they don't even understand them necessarily as downloads. But anytime you get that creative spark, on some level, it's a download. And if people can normalize that, they'll be a lot less fearful and a lot better off, in my opinion. Just like the whole concept of crazy. I have a long and storied history with mental health organizations as a board member. And a lot of it was working with consumers who have had paranormal experiences on, even on ET levels, and helping everybody in their care understand they're not necessarily crazy. They may be crazier because you're trying to suppress that with medication. But what if they actually had that experience? And I've been able to help people see that those experiences have some validity, and maybe there's another pathway. So I don't know if you're all that crazy. I mean, I don't know you that well. Maybe when we're in Michigan, we'll get together.
But I think you're right. I think we all have that little bit of crazy in us, and you're just willing to admit it.
That's true. It's more, you can call it crazy, but it's more like, I don't care what people think.
It's the courage to be yourself.
That's right. To be authentic.
Exactly. It's the empowerment to know what you know and not buy into everybody else's story.
And again, the school of therapeutic modality that I was fortunate enough to be educated in is, as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else, live your life and be who you are, because that's why you came here.
Very true.
It's true.
Very true. And, a lot of people, I'm sure, will read that book and realize that, like you said, that they're not alone, that, a lot of the experiences are very similar. A detail or two, or, big ship, small ship, tall being, small being, whatever. But everything that happens there is basically in one way or another, healing, whether it be healing to create hybrid children because you wanted more children and you couldn't, so they create hybrid children, and the memory of that will, once you get there, will heal you, because then you'll say, oh, I wanted children, and they gave them to me. If you go there and you have, say, lupus, and you get some type of healing there, and you come back and all of a sudden your symptoms are gone, or they're in remission, as because no doctor wants to say they're gone. Everything is in remission. Right? All of a sudden it's like, oh wait, but I remember, and they helped me heal. Why? Because you were willing to receive the healing, even if you didn't remember. Because I
That's
really believe
right.
we still have free will, even when it comes to experiences with ET.
So, if I understand you correctly, this book is going to be somewhat autobiographical of your experiences in a way that other people might be able to relate to them. Is that your plan?
Actually, it's going to be a little bit different than that. I'll talk about my
Okay.
initial experience, what started with the book, but sort
Mhm.
of like the Voices of Contact, where I'm taking the regressions and we're discussing them. This will be the full on regression. I'll use a different name, but it'll be the whole thing. It won't be just bits and pieces, and it'll go into extreme detail of the whole regression and their experience and what they went through. And then the being that came to me, what he showed me is for each chapter, there'll be a parting message from him that's channeled from him.
Ooh. I'm really looking forward to this.
So it'll definitely be different than just my own experiences.
But it's nice that you start with that and you have the courage to lend your voice to that and give it that foundation. Because if it's not about you and you're not willing to own it, then it could be fiction. And if it is about you, then it's very difficult for people to say, "Well, it's fiction." Well, no, because I had the experience as well.
Right.
So it's wonderful that you have the courage to do that, and thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's our purpose, isn't it? To have courage where nobody else will.
Well, everyone has a different purpose, but our purpose is to evolve, and to evolve takes courage because to be free to do that, you've got to let go of the dogma that's keeping you from evolving. And it takes a lot of courage because there's a reason people try to program you with dogma.
Mhm.
It's much easier to control you if you just do what everybody else does and what you're told to do and walk on the right side of the hallway as you go down to school and pledge allegiance to a piece of cloth and all that other stuff that fake borders is you know conceptual,
Mhm.
and none of it in the universe really holds water.
Mhm. So, what else do you have? Because this is so interesting. I need to know more. I need to know more.
Well, that's those are the two things that I have in the work. For that, for my spiritual work, my main goal is to really grow there, put myself out, doing things I don't normally do. So like gallery readings, things like that. My first one will be at the end of April at a Parafest. And so I'll be working with another medium there doing a big gallery reading. But I just want to push myself as hard as I can out of my comfort zone. One of my favorite sayings is life begins out of your comfort zone. So if you're just doing things that you're comfortable with, you're not getting anywhere. And I think if I can't make myself uncomfortable, how do I expect the people to come to me with regression work and make themselves feel uncomfortable in order to explore and to expand their spirituality? Because that's a part of the process too. When you're doing regression work, when you're healing, you're doing some spiritual work, because there's always a correlation. If you are a long-time experiencer, you have psychic gifts. There is a huge correlation between paranormal experiences and psychic gifts and being taken. Because what happens is when you're taken, they supercharge your frequency so that your vibration can handle their frequency, because you're not going to be able to handle it if it doesn't match. It's going to throw you off. Excuse me.
Mhm.
And so quite often people will come back. And this is why I will work with paranormal experiencers, because there might be something a lot more to it than just paranormal experiences. But once you've been taken, you come back, you have weird stuff that's happening all around you. All that increases that psychic gift. And so the regression work, it's all spirituality. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, because that spiritual path is not for the weak. It isn't. Just like you said, to get rid of that dogma and to grow. Man, like the universe will put you through the ringer and put a beating on you just to make sure that you're growing right. And if you don't do it right the first time, they're going to create that cycle all over again. And here you go around, and you're going to do it all over again until you get it right. And it's a struggle in any shape or form. So my goal is just to continue to raise my vibration, that spiritual practice, and do whatever it takes to put that message out to everybody else, raise my vibration so they can raise theirs, and to be in service of the people who come to me, no matter what it is. My regression work, quite often I will offer that for free. So if they can't afford it, I will do it for free. I have no problem doing that, because the money's not the issue. That's not why I'm doing it. I'll take a trade. If they want to give a donation, I'll take that. If they make something, I'll take that. Love macadamia nut cookies, chocolate cake, lots of stuff. I make caramel. I don't need any of that, just in case anybody knows how to make caramel popcorn. But the point, my people, just to get help and find the healing and to find answers, because you don't do any good to yourself or do any justice to yourself in any shape or form going through life questioning your sanity or questioning what's going on. So, like,
well, one of my mantras is control is an illusion. And once you ask people to consider that and then challenge them to give you a scenario where it's, there was a very famous comedian who used to say, I know you say you believe in the Almighty, but when that, you don't believe in the Almighty, but when that ground shakes, you look up. And there's so many ways to help people get past that illusion of control if they're ready to do so. But, that's where the free will comes in. And the other one is, I love The Wizard of Oz, because to me, that's a brilliant work. And the simplest concept in that has so many different meanings. Surrender, Dorothy. It all begins when you surrender. You have to surrender what you're clinging to really begin to evolve.
It's so funny too that you mentioned Wizard of Oz, because when I first started my spiritual journey, that's what I really tapped into a lot, was the Wizard of Oz, because it really is all about that spiritual journey and, finding your way home. And I remember, gosh, I had this dream where I was at the Emerald City and I was walking up a golden spiral staircase, and I finally got to the top, and a crow landed on my shoulder, and I tried to shake it off, and I heard him say, "No, you can't shake it off anymore. Now's the time." And then I woke up, and that's where, like, things started to really develop and keep going for me. Like, that's where I really started getting into it and developing those spiritual gifts, just because it was such an impactful dream. And then you continue. It's sort of like your God give you like little bits and pieces just to keep you going just enough, and then they take it away just for a little bit, because you got to know you're doing the work and you're actually developing. Because if you don't do the work, you're not going to get anywhere with it, right? Because you can have the gifts, but you have to be able to work with the gifts too.
And it's so
the most important thing.
disconcerting to me that we've become such a codependent society, because everybody is looking to not do the work. Everybody's looking to have someone else do the work for them, or at least get something, for the work that they're willing to do for other people. And that's not what it's about. Everybody has to do their own work. And the beauty of it is, we've always had the power, but we have to learn it for ourselves.
That's right. That's even
Yeah.
harder for like an Aries who I just want it and I want it now. Like I don't want to wait. I just want to have it. That's why I order Amazon, because I know I can order Amazon and it'll be on my front porch tomorrow. I don't want to have to wait for it. I'm horrible if I go into a store, because if I have to wait too long in line, I'm going to be putting something in my cart because I'm waiting there. I can't help it. So the spirituality can be rough on some, especially when they're impatient like I am. I just wanted it right away.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm a Gemini, so I want it right away, but I want full details. I want to know everything upside down, inside out, about anything. And that gets me in trouble sometimes. So,
And I get
And then
into
you gotta
more
talk
trouble.
it out while you're worrying about it, right?
yeah.
And I get into more trouble because people misunderstand what I'm saying. And they say, "Oh, what do you think? You're the second coming?" So no, actually, I was here first. Because I'm a Capricorn.
It's really it's rough. It's rough, but if you don't do the work, you're not going to evolve. You're not really going to heal. You think you're healing, but you're not. And you ask, you're in a position, you ask for help. Your guides provide the teachers, the opportunities and everything, and they give you something, and yet you're just taking it half in because you don't want to really have to go down deep and do the work. You're not going to get you're not going to get anything out of it. And so next time you ask, your guys are going to say, well, you still got to work on that, you know work on that first. And they repeat the exact same experience basically, and it just stays there until you finally go, oh yeah, I got to do the work.
And she's worse than that because she knows a good portion of the archangels, and there's only one she won't fight with.
No, there's one I will not. Everybody else, fair game. But this one, she comes down, she gives a suggestion, and I would be like, yes, okay, let's just go there. You're sending me to California. Okay.
Vegas.
Vegas, oh
Yeah.
yeah. Wherever. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll do that. Everybody else, why? Why do I have to go there? Why can't you send somebody who's closer? I don't want to travel. It's too long.
And
too
I
much.
say to her, "Why are you arguing with Michael?" And she said, "Because if I don't, he'll think I'm losing it."
Yeah.
I've been doing it since I was 2, so they're used to it by now.
Well, sometimes it's to see if you have faith and if you're willing just to believe and look into it. Because I remember the first time, again, this is when I first got into my spiritual journey. I remember walking, we were in upstairs apartment at the time. I remember walking downstairs and looking up at the light and seeing smoke around the light, like someone had smoked a cigarette and it had raised up, but nobody smoked. And I remember thinking, that's really weird. Like, that is odd. And finished walking down the steps. My husband was in front of me. I looked over to my right and I see all these different color orbs: blue, red, yellow,
Nice.
green. And I remember standing there going, am I really seeing that? And I'm looking over at my husband. I'm like, are you seeing this? And he was just standing there impatient, like, what the hell are you doing? Are you coming? Because we've got to go. And I remember getting in my vehicle and looking over going, did I really see that? And I could see that all of them moving towards my vehicle. And so I knew about archangels, but I never really researched them. So when of course, I'm looking at, that's the first thing I do is spiritual meaning of the red orbs. And it was Mother Mary, it was Jesus, it was Archangel Michael, Raphael. And so like sometimes they test you. Are you actually we're going to show you, and we'll give you more if you're willing to actually take the time to look up the spiritual meaning of it. I'm always saying it. Man, I saw a skunk the day before yesterday, and you know that because I was basing it on what I was thinking.
Okay, we kind of lost you a little bit. You saw a skunk?
Yes, and you,
Baby skunk?
you know, I was looking that up.
Yes. For many reasons, yes.
That's right. It means
As
something,
long
and
as-
it did.
As long as you could leave that encounter where you found it and not take anything with you, you're
Yeah.
golden. We have about 5 minutes left. Where do you want to cover that we haven't touched on yet?
Oh, she's freezing again. Just remember, people, we're all having ice storms right now. So the weather is affecting our internet, everyone's, including Mary's, unfortunately.
She's moving. She's thawing out.
Yeah, she's going in and out. Okay.
No, none of it. You froze. Can you come back with it? We can hear you now, I think.
It's getting better.
Me? It's getting
Yes,
better.
go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
jeez. I can't believe the storm we're having.
Yeah. So
what do you want to leave us with?
Well, I really just thank you for having me on the show.
Well,
like
thank
I
you for
said,
being had.
You're great.
Wait, you're just
can
getting a little brush of me. She's more than willing to let you have more.
I'll leave.
Find me on book, Mary Bassett. Look up the new show that we have going, The Voices of Contact. I can guarantee there's going to be something on there that will trigger you. And don't
Now,
hesitate
where
to
can we
reach
find
out.
the voices of? Where can we find the voices of contact?
On Facebook, if you look up the Facebook page, Voices of Contact, you'll find it there. And also Deb DeRoos, if you're friends with her, you'll find it on her page. We air every Friday night at 8 p.m.
Deb's actually in the chat.
Yes.
Yes.
She is.
I see her. Hi, Deb. I just love her.
Hi, Deb. Well, how can you not?
It's impossible. She's got such a good heart.
Yes, she does.
And this Friday's episode, I regress Bill Konkoleski, and he has some fascinating information. So if you want to know what's coming for us in 2023, he has some information on that when we tapped into his higher self. So you don't want to miss out on that.
Sounds fantastic. And it'd be great because those that are going to be with us next Wednesday, they would have a head start on him.
He's going to be our guest.
Because he's going to be our guest. So who else is in the show with you? I know Deb is.
And then RJ as well. And then we have Michael Carter, and he is from Ancient Aliens.
Right.
So he's a contributor to that show. So all very knowledgeable people. And what's perfect is they all have different perspectives. My favorite thing about Deb is she really comes from that empath perspective. RJ comes from spiritual perspective and the meaning of actually what ET has and what kind of impact that has on us. Bill comes more from the scientific approach with MUFON, and Michael Carter, he's kind of like in the middle. And so he kind of is like the bridge between the gap. And I'm just that person that smiles while we're listening to the regret, while I listen to the experts, but I'm actually learning things. Like I'm getting a better understanding of what the meaning is to the regression, what their experience is.
Well, thank you again for joining us. We are out of time. If you can hang while we say goodbye, and we'll close off screen.
All right. I want to thank everyone who is here tonight. Many blessings. We love you guys. Please join us next week. at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have the Bill, the one that we've been talking so much about, and he is the state director of the Michigan chapter of MUFON since 2004. So he really should have a lot of interesting experiences to tell us about. Thank you again, Mary, and thank you, everyone. We love you. Have a great one. Bye.